So here I have unknown 1, which is a white powder. I'm going to scoop some out, just a little bit, and put it in the cavities. So 2 cation tests, and then there are 4 anion tests. So make a total of 6 solutions. So I'm going to make these solutions by dissolving these in water. Just add a little bit of distilled water and stir them up. So for the first cation test, so just a little bit dissolve here. So for the first cation test, I'm going to be adding sodium sulfide solution to this first cavity. See the result there. And then for the second one, I'll be adding sodium sulfate to it. So there's the sodium sulfate. Followed by hydrochloric acid. The results of the second test. So then for the negative ion tests, for the first one, I'll be adding barium chloride. Followed by hydrochloric acid. For the second anion test, we'll be adding a filter paper with lead acetate on it. There's lead acetate. And then we'll be adding hydrochloric acid. Actually, I could probably do the second and third test at the same time by having lead acetate on one side and potassium permanganate on the other side of this filter paper. And then add a few drops of hydrochloric acid to both of these plates. And let that sit for a little bit. For the last test, I'll be taking saturated lime water and putting it into an adjacent cavity. And then I'll be capping the gas. Add some hydrochloric acid. Doesn't seem like there's any bubbling or anything like that, so I don't think this is going to do anything. Yeah, it's not really bubbling. And the color didn't really change on either one of these. So that's it for the unknown 1 tests. Unknown 2 is also a white powder. So for unknown 2, only going to do the negative ion tests. So with a clean scoop, I'm just going to pull out 4 of them. 4. So again, you can see it's just a white kind of salt-looking solution or solid. And again, dissolved in the water. Now that that's all dissolved, starting the negative ion tests. So for the first negative ion test, I'm going to take barium chloride. Add a few drops, followed by a few drops of hydrochloric acid. Now that one went almost completely clear when I added the hydrochloric acid, compared to unknown 1, which still stayed pretty cloudy. All right, and the next two are the ones that are on the filter paper. So I'm going to take one piece of filter paper and I'm going to put lead acetate on one side of it, and then on the other side I'm going to put potassium permanganate, which is this purple color, like that. And then I'm going to add a few drops of hydrochloric acid. See what happens. Was a change with that one. And there was no bubbling when we added the hydrochloric acid, so we can't really do the last test since that requires it to bubble. Next we have unknown 3. Unknown 3 is a dark colored, kind of rust colored powder. So again, only doing the negative ion tests. I'm going to do 4 solutions of this one. And dissolve in some water. See on paper. It's not doing a great job at dissolving, but since all of the only reaction we really need to see a color for is the first one, and that would be a white color, we'll just see what happens. So for the first test, again, barium chloride. A few drops. Doesn't really look like anything happened. Add some hydrochloric acid. Again, nothing really seemed to happen there. For the second and third tests, again, I'm going to take a piece of filter paper and put lead acetate on one side and potassium permanganate on the other. Lead acetate. And potassium permanganate. And I'm going to add hydrochloric acid to those 2 wells. And lay it across. Seems to be a little bit of bubbling going on. Maybe I should add a little bit more hydrochloric acid. There's also a strong odor with this one. Strong, sort of unpleasant odor. It's not really bubbling a whole lot, so I don't think the last test is going to work. We're not going to get enough gas to bubble into the next cavity. All right, last up is number 4. Unknown number 4 is also a white powder. It's a little bit more powdery than salt crystal-like. First test the barium chloride solution. A few drops. It gets a little cloudy. Add a few drops of hydrochloric acid. And it bubbles and goes back to being clear. Let's see, that's just bubbling, that's not cloudiness. All the cloudiness is gone. Next 2 tests, the lead acetate on one and the potassium permanganate the other. I'm going to add the hydrochloric acid. It bubbles quite a bit. Move them over. Since that one's bubbling a lot, we can probably go ahead and do the last test with the lime water in the adjacent cavity. There's the lime water in the adjacent cavity. Cap and tube ready. A little bit out of the way. Bubble it. Bubbling a little bit into the lime water. And the lime water is getting a little bit cloudy.